welcome everybody to our 7th episode of Community Chat. This is our 7th episode, part B, second time around, so 7B. We thank you for joining us today for the Center for Community Engagement's Community Chat. This is an opportunity to connect with community partners, residents, leaders, students, and faculty around issues that matter to our community. Today's episode is about our Northeast neighbors. So we have invited some resident leaders from Northeast Spokane in to talk about our neighborhood, explore what our community is about, and really engage our students here today. This show has been growing. This is our 7.5 episode, I guess. Every time we do this episode, we have more and more viewers. Today we have about 23 participants live in the room. It's a closed session today, so a little intimate gathering, as opposed to our broad thousands and thousands of viewers at other shows. So we thank you for being here. But when we do put the show out, we'll have thousands across the world, millions watching at home. Every day, our viewership just grows. Zoom is still mad at us for breaking the server, so we really appreciate you joining us today. You're part of something special. We'd like to turn it over to our partners to introduce ourselves. We have 2 partners with us today, maybe a third joining us. We'll see what the cards hold. But if we wanted to start with introductions, we have Lindsay and Luke with us today. Lindsay, would you kick us off? A little bit of introductions of yourself, how you are connected to Northeast Spokane.
Sure. Thank you, Anthony. Hi, everybody. My name's Lindsay Shaw, and I am the current Logan neighborhood chair. I grew up in Northeast Spokane, and my mom actually lives a block away, and she bought her home in 1999, which apparently is a couple years ago. So I've got nothing but a vision for where this neighborhood is headed, and hopefully I can bring everyone along with me to share that vision.
Thank you, Lindsay. Luke?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Luke Tully. I am the community assembly representative for the Hilliard neighborhood, among a bunch of other things. I'm actually a third generation Hilliardite, Northeastite, I guess maybe, and have been active in neighborhood civics for upwards of 17 years, I think it is now, starting with like the Hilliard Festival and then getting all the way down to, I just recently was appointed to the mayor's police reform task force that eventually will start, hopefully. The community assembly honored me to let them be their representative for the neighborhoods. I am also in my professional life the director of community engaged programs for the Arc of Spokane, and we work with people with developmental disabilities. And so it gives me a really great juxtaposition of points of view, kind of the neighborhood, especially lots of underserved populations in that way, and then a very, very specific underserved population with people with IDD. And I've been a small business owner in the neighborhood. I currently live in the Bemis neighborhood, which I affectionately call South Hilliard most of the time. This is where I've chosen to stay. I came back after college like a lot of people, and I absolutely love Northeast Spokane.
Awesome, thank you, Luke. And I'm not sure if Natalia's going to be joining us today. If Natalia does come in and join us, Natalia is the founder of If You Could Save One, this really wonderful nonprofit up in Northeast Spokane. I won't say more about it in case she joins us today, but in case she does, I want to give you a little context for her. But thank you, Luke and Lindsay, for joining us today. We wanted to start by thinking through and asking a question about the strengths and assets you see in your community. We talked a lot about asset-based approaches today to community engaged work. So what assets do you see in Northeast Spokane? And we can start either way, go back and forth.
I'll start. So I, as I said, love Northeast Spokane, and so I see a lot of the positives. In Hilliard, especially the extreme sort of northeast corner of town, we have a lot of history. We were a city right around the same time that Spokane was, and then we're eventually annexed into Spokane. So there's a lot of pride and a lot of history there. There is a very hardworking blue collar background to this neighborhood. We have a ton of the industrial, construction, food service, supply, that kind of thing, all happens in Northeast Spokane very quietly. Most of the time people don't have any idea. And so while there are other big, areas like the West Plains and the Valley Industrial Park and that kind of thing within the actual city itself, Hilliard is the biggest concentration of sort of industrial land, or really Northeast, that kind of area, because there's some stuff down in Bemis and Logan as well. And then I think the other thing that I really love about my neighborhood, and one of the many reasons that we've decided to stay here and raise our daughter here, is that diversity. A lot of the immigrant communities that come to Spokane end up settling in Northeast Spokane. A lot of in a community that's something like 92% Caucasian. I think that percentage is a little better in the Northeast. I think that we have a lot of folks that tend to move up into our neighborhood for various reasons. And there's also like economic diversity. You sometimes have millionaires living right next to people who are at the poverty line and that kind of thing. There's really a lot less of that strata sometimes in our neighborhoods that I think is really cool. So for me, those are kind of the two big things.
Thank you, Luke.
And Anthony, Natalia has joined us. I don't know if you saw that, so I want to let you know.
Awesome. Natalia, can we give you a chance to say hello real quick, introduce yourself, and then maybe Lindsay, could you answer the question next? And then Natalia will give you a second to get yourself situated. So if you wanted to say hello, Natalia, introduce yourself and how you're connected to Northeast Spokane. Yeah, I think you're muted, Natalia.
Don't you hate that when that happens? I'm Natalia Gutierrez with If You Could Save Just One in Hilliard, serving at-risk youth. Is that good?
Perfect. Thank you, Natalia. So concise. I love it. Also, now that Natalia's here, this group is so fun. Luke, Lindsay, Natalia, the combination of you three last time was insane, and I love it. And I'm so excited for this time. So thank you for being here, Natalia. So Lindsay, assets and strengths of Northeast Spokane.
Sense of community. I feel like if you have neighbors in Northeast Spokane, or if you grew up in Northeast Spokane, people, they've got your back, and you won't find the camaraderie, I think, anywhere else in town like you do in Northeast. But we have the river that I think is a wonderful asset. It's also kind of a divide from a lot of the city, but it's so beautiful. We have to embrace it, I think, as a Northeast neighborhood. Yeah, I think that our biggest asset right now is the potential. I think it's kind of been a forgotten, or maybe just not as much of attention fully in Northeast as I think what is possible. So I think that having the opportunity to be a part of the change is the biggest asset that I see at the moment.
Thank you, Lindsay. Natalia,
Okay,
assets and strengths of our community.
Aspects. When I hear aspects, I think of, God, what is our community going through? If I were to talk about Northeast, what they're going through, or, the aspects of what I see around my community, I think putting all of our data numbers into play, which I'm a big data fan, that is struggling over here, and the youth and the parents that are reaching out to If You Could Save Just One, struggling with the right now. What can they get to resource them right now? So that is an aspect that I'm seeing on my end. But like Lindsay said, there's potential, because what we don't have, many of you can create. Your ideas can bring into the community, and we can develop a lot more programs than what we have now. So, but that's not to say we don't have them. I always like to put that out there. It's not that we don't have them. It's just when kids and parents are going through situations like COVID right now, or school issues, like my son in the background that you'll hear is in school at the same time as me doing this. it's a lot. So, but again, all of you are in the room to build new, I would assume, new things and be innovative in what we have going on in this community right now.
Thank you all. Thank you, Natalia. Natalia, real quick, I wanted to give you a chance to answer about some strengths you see in the community. So things that like are positive that you feel in Northeast Spokane.
Strengths. Well, I would say that this movement of this past year or two has built a strength in just the diversity and the people that maybe have run a lot of things within the past years are recognizing what needs to be shifted for people in poverty or people that are just in whatever situations. And so I see that as a positive thing, that we're moving towards different avenues to unite us as a community over here in the Northeast. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Talia. Yeah, and just it does seem to me, at least, and I've only been here in Spokane for about 4 years. So Luke and Lindsay and Natalia have much more context than I do, but it does seem like there's this moment right now of energy and creativity, and maybe that's happened before. I imagine it has, and I'm excited to be part of it right now. For our second question, we wanted to ask a little bit about challenges and concerns you see in your community. And Natalia mentioned this a little bit, but to go a little deeper into challenges and concerns that you see in Northeast Spokane. And I'd really like to encourage our students, the questions that are coming up for you, things that you're thinking about, things that you want to know. Feel free to put them in the chat and we'll put you in a queue there and we'll get your questions answered too. So, but for right now, Luke, Lindsay, and Natalia, challenges and concerns that you're seeing in Northeast Spokane.
I think that some challenges that we are seeing is a big part is like the stigma. You know, I saw a posting. It's like, I'm looking for to buy a house anywhere but Hilliard. It's like, why would you limit yourself? But that's personal choice. I love to think that I can make this neighborhood a better place for my kids and for all kids. I also see challenges with the housing, specifically in Logan. I know that there's a lot of student housing that's empty in the summertime. I also know that there are some halfway houses. So we have a very diverse population in Logan specifically. And I also see a lack of opportunity for our teenagers. So that's kind of a challenge, and just trying to keep them having something that they're interested in to keep them out of trouble, which Natalia is helping with, which we're so blessed to have her. So those are just a few things. Also, our neighborhoods are historically redlined, so trying to prevent anything like that happening further. It seems like an old school mentality, but it's still happening today with the North Spokane corridor and many other things, I think. So just trying to, I don't know if that's reversible, but trying to think of making it a better place.
Okay, Luke, I'm going to jump in because then I always forget what I'm going to say, so I have to say it. What I definitely, it's a great question. And so, you know me, Anthony, I like to kind of move it to the side a little bit. So with us working with teenagers, middle, and we're even getting requests for younger kids, which makes sense, right? Because you can't just cut them all off, right? You can't just keep it within these lines because Spokane likes to go out of the lines. But I think it's the challenge that I see is sometimes, and this is even within myself, okay? So I had a kid that was an at-risk, and really, you know, what does at risk mean? Any kid is at risk, right? Like anything can happen at any time. And so we put out these questions for families to ask so we can see how to support them. And when we got about 85% of the parents felt like their kids weren't at risk at all. But most of their messages were about how they have no money for rent, no food, no this and that, right? So the categories go on: getting out of a domestic violence relationship, which is getting your kid out of a at-risk situation. So being able to recognize within ourselves what environment we're in And that's a challenge when you're working with people in a certain kind of culture. And I don't mean brown or white or Asian. I don't mean that kind of culture. What I mean is sometimes we're in a culture where drugs in our home is normal, where violence or yelling at each other is normal. And so, being able to recognize that, kids are acting out because of something that maybe occurred before or whenever or now, it's a challenge for some of us that are trying to come into the community, like myself, recognizing that I had obviously a lot of things going on with my own family and kids. But how do I fix that? Everybody wants a quick tool to fix something, right? But really it comes within a lot more of being mindful and knowing what's going on in our own atmospheres. So I think that's a challenge that, like, even though I can provide many activities, and then when you see the kids in the Zoom, you can hear their parents, arguing in the background, and the kids distracted, and then the kids angry, you know what I mean? So it just trickles in different ways on how. So really what I'm trying to say is obviously don't give up. And for us and my organization, it's building that relationship so the kid has somebody they can trust to talk to and not feel like we're going to run to their parents and tell them. Of course there's a line, but that's giving them that kid and have an outlet somewhere. And just like myself, and you all need an outlet. Some might go to the club, you know what I mean? What does that kid do? You know what I mean? So hopefully that answers a little bit.
Thank you, Natalia.
I think Natalia is actually incapable of just talking about challenges. She's always going to get that positive stuff on the other side, which is one of the many things I love about her. So these ladies had a great answers that I would reinforce. Obviously, the systemic oppression and racism that we have in multiple areas and for a very, very long time. Generational poverty that's got, we could talk for the full hour on that. Infrastructure, housing, even like the things that are holding back a lot of businesses from moving in and jobs being created, or stuff like not enough copper and fiber where they would want to start a new business. They can't get internet, they can't get phone, or at least get it as strong as they need it, especially these days, right? I think COVID is really shining a light on a lot of these challenges and things that we haven't necessarily been faced with before. We have a huge ecological challenge because of so much industrial land that we, if we really want to get prosperous over time, that a lot of that land has just been built over, and as it gets dug up, it has to be dealt with, and that's a lot of money and it's a lot of challenge. Can't get loans, that kind of stuff. One of the biggest things that we always fight and that we always have to be vigilant of as neighborhood leaders is things happening with us and not to us. The political landscape can create that. The big projects like the North-South corridor can create that. We're pretty proud of the work that we've done with the North Spokane corridor because of sort of forcing them to work with the neighborhoods and to keep that in mind and not just do it the way that makes sense just by the numbers and that kind of thing. And then I think another thing that's really come to light recently, or at least become super clear, is the political divisiveness is really, really evident in Northeast Spokane. If you look back at, election results for the last decade or so, it's really, really close here, and it can go either direction. And that can create a lot of the sort of culture war stuff that we see. The Planned Parenthood situation is in our district, and you have folks that are extremely, extremely strongly on the progressive side, and people who are extremely, extremely strongly on the conservative side. And if they have a common bond, that kind of like what Lindsay described, they will have each other's back. They'll know each other, and that'll work out well. But a lot of times they don't, and a lot of times they don't see each other complexly that way. And so if we don't keep reminding them of that we're all in this together, I think that's one of the other charges that we have as neighborhood leaders, is to help people see that, right or left, whatever those divisions are, we're still in this together as Spokanites, as Northeasterners, as Hilliardites, whatever that is.
Hey, Luke, you referenced, and I think Lindsay, you too, the North-South Corridor project, and we didn't touch on that. So I think that would be helpful for folks because that's major context for this neighborhood.
Oh, goodness. Another topic we could talk about for hours and hours. Spokane realized probably 100 years ago that it needed a major north-south thoroughfare but never could figure out exactly where to put it. And there was a lot of like NIMBY, you know, at one point it was going to go down Division, and then it just kept moving to the east. And so eventually, probably 20 years ago, it settled on the railroad corridor, which makes a ton of sense, right? Like when I-90 cut through East Central, it cut that neighborhood in two. I mean, it was violent. And there's some really horrible stories of that. It's a little less violent in Northeast Spokane because of the railroad tracks always dividing our neighborhood. And it's really a fascinating project because it's over half done, but you wouldn't know it because all that's up north, all that's rural. And so the section in town is going to take much longer. Plus, it takes much more interaction with the neighborhoods and stuff. So the most recent issues have been around what are the design features, quote unquote, that we would want. And we've been blessed that we were able to work with them to create placemaking opportunities and really look at how can we make this thing an asset. There are still people that lament it and don't want it to happen at all, and I totally get that. But I'm kind of I'm long since past that. I mean, it's a given kind of thing for me. And you know, there's a whole other side story about a boulevard thing that came up a couple of years ago. And none of that stuff, I don't mean to completely poo-poo it. It's just trying to stop the WashDOT train is pretty tough, and I'm not willing to jump in front of that one. So instead, I'd like to just make sure that it does as little damage as possible, and maybe even add some stuff that's positive. And we've seen that, and we know that, you know, we've been able to work with them to make sure that it doesn't just pass through, that there's opportunities for people to get off and shop. There's opportunities for people to use it to move their business products. I used to have a shop in East Hilliard, and we sold golf carts, and I could clock it. It took longer to get from East Hilliard to I-90 than it did to get from I-90 to the Coeur d'Alene Resort with a golf cart. And that was a real problem. I mean, if you really think about that times hundreds of carts a year, and then all the different products. And so there are those things that can come with it. But like I said, I am really excited about the placemaking we've done and all the tangential stuff that's come off of that, right? Like we're talking about trails and other things that aren't even directly connected to it because of that. So it's been a big plus. Feel free to add, anybody.
I see it slightly differently. But you know, they came and took out affordable housing to put it in, and it's not the north-south freeway. They couldn't afford to take it on the South Hill, and it's really not about us who live here. It's about freight. So it's really about big monies. It's dividing off that area that you say has no copper or no like internet. And it also doesn't have bus service. So now we're putting a freeway, blocking it off from a place that doesn't have internet access, phone access, paved roads, or bus systems. It just seems, and I know families that live over there, it seems very blood boiling to me. I'm trying to let that go for the sake of my health. I guess there could be some good to come out of it. It just feels like, put it in Northeast. Nobody cares about Northeast. I care about Northeast. But anyways, just my tangent.
Wow. I know that project's been going on, like it has roots like in the 60s. Is that right? Like I remember reading the brief and I was like, wow, forever this has been going on.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's been over 100 years that they've talked about it and they've known it was a necessity. But it really was, okay, let's put it on Division. Nope, we don't want it here. It's too much. Okay, well, let's put it along Nevada. Nope, that's going to take out houses. It's going to fight, you know, it's going to be a problem. And it just kept moving further and further east. And Lindsay's not wrong about anything that she said. I think that I'm just more, you know, the traumatized person that's willing to put up with it because I've been doing it for so long. I mean, that's the difference. Is this has been a reality for us in Hilliard because we knew it was coming for 20 years or more. You know, we had designs and things that we had vested that of course have long since gone out the window, but because of the railroads and their design standards. But you know, it's just it's something that is really hard to fight when it's already such a fait accompli. And so we really wanted to try to make it as good a thing as we can.
Thanks, y'all. Not to do too much of a hard pivot, but we had some questions from some of our students. And Evan wanted to ask, and I'm not sure, Evan, if you're there and you'd like to ask in person, that's great. But I can ask the question for you too. I'll just go ahead and, oh, there you go. Cool.
Sorry
Evan, would you
about
like to ask
that.
your question?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, what are some of the tangible changes that you've seen, and that the ones that you're most proud of, and what were the challenges creating those?
You guys want me to go first? I will say tangible. What makes me think of this is my story. I was a mom with a missing kid, 6 months, kid's missing. What do I do? You know, where do I go? Who do I talk to? What resources are out there? You don't think in that moment, my kid's not coming back. You think, what, I mean, I don't know what other parents think, but I know what I thought is like, okay, when he comes back, I got to make something tangible. And that tangible thing was a program that I bought 4 turntables and thought, okay, if I can get one DJ to come teach these kids how to turn in these turntables and add math in there, that's going to inspire this kid to not be bored and learn math in a different way. Okay, now I can grab this break dancer, because I used to break dance, but I would break my back now. But I grabbed a break dancer. Okay, teach these kids how to break dance. You know what I mean? That was something that I could do in my own community because I knew people in certain avenues, right? So I brought it. I found a garage that was owned by a church, and I like revamped it with everything in my house. And like it just looks like a cool clubhouse, but more for the kid that is suspended because it's lowrider bikes and art of just a different kind of art anyway. And so it's just like a lot more like chill than a boys and girls club that has rainbows around it. You know what I mean? Not that I have anything against rainbows. I love all rainbows. But it has been taken, hasn't it? And so anyway, the point is like that was tangible. I knew what I could do, what I could do. I knew what other people weren't doing, and I knew what my kid needed. So what I say to that is like, I don't know what your career path is, but what you can do is obviously, right? We educate ourselves and we take our ideas and we just, that's tangible for me. That was doable for me. So Lindsay, Luke, what's tangible for you?
Oh,
This
yeah.
this might be an overshare, but my little brother is much younger than me, and he was is a problem child for my mother. And I wish Natalia's program would have been around, not only for my brother, but for my mom, just for some community support, because she looked around for help and really couldn't find it. And that was, a few years ago, but still, if she's creating something that's very needed and it's long overdue. So thank you so much for that tangible thing. Yeah, I think that like the Cincinnati Greenway is super amazing. The South U District development is making this whole area feel and look differently. That bridge is amazing, and I feel like that affects this area. Tangible. Yeah, let me think about it. I'll come back.
Yeah, I think the intangible answer is community. It wasn't that long ago that there wasn't much sense of community in the Northeast. And, the common answer was, well, everybody's working 2 jobs or more, and, parents don't have time to engage or do anything, and the kids are bad, and that a lot of that's changed in the last 10 to 20 years. And I'm really, happy about that. And I think there are tangible things that reflect that. The Market Street reconstruction project that turned, a section of town that was all bars and old junk stores into, more of a shopping destination and an antique district. And, I like a bar. I'm not necessarily down on the bars. And I think we kept quite a few really good restaurants and bars. And actually, really proud of how that project went down without getting into all the details of it. So there's those kind of things. I think the other really tangible thing is our support systems that I think used to be really neglected, like the Northeast Community Center, the Northeast Youth Center, the Hilliard Senior Center, the new, rebuild with Shaw and the library. Those are things that wouldn't have happened a long time ago, and now they're huge. The youth center, was a couple of rooms in the community center, and is now this humongous building that's helping parents. They're the only reason certain parents still have jobs and can work through COVID, because they're doing homeschooling at the center. So those kind of things, and even if you can help just one, those programs seem much more flighty and impossible before. And now they're happening. Now they're very possible. Now they're really doable. And I think that's an awesome, tangible thing.
Wait a minute.
I know the second part. Oh, Natalia, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I read the thing, what was the challenge though? And I left that out. So the
Mhm.
challenge is for me was we have community members that come, but they're in this mode of like just not knowing exactly how to help, not realizing their own talents. So you could knit, you could do anything and teach a kid, right? I mean, you just have to have the passion enough to do it. So I think the challenge is having others recognize their own talents and what they can provide so easily for the kids. That, granted, I guess the other challenge part is everybody wants money. Everybody wants money. I need money. Everybody's need, right? Everyone's working 3 jobs starting this thing. So it was really a money thing where, and not until lately, guys, did any grant come through, because like I said, I was working 3 jobs. So that was really hard. So that was, the challenge is always going to be everybody needs money, right? But I think another challenge for ourselves is to put it out in the universe and really network and find those people that have the mutual interests that you guys have, to build on that. Without that, which is called community, right? Or, like it could be your own little dorm room, and I call that community, you know what I mean? But I think that's the challenging part, is navigating your way, because you want to give up and you want to be frustrated and you want to be like, what? There's 2,000 kids missing every day. Why doesn't anybody want to help me? But then here I am working with, supporting over 300 kids, in a month. So it worked. So anyway, I just had to add that.
Yeah, I'm interested. I know that we mentioned the barriers to that progress as well, and I've heard maybe all of you at some point talk a little bit about maybe like a lack of articulation in the past between different nonprofits, different projects, different community leaders, like folks not necessarily being on the same page. Can you speak to that as a challenge, but then also maybe things you've seen that have started to change that?
Will I go first? Challenge. When it comes to politicianal, whatever word you want to use, and I'm going to say this, and I don't know what each and every one of you guys have gone through in your life. I really don't. So let's just put yourself in a situation where you're somebody that wants to help. And you see these, if you start paying attention to all the news and the political draws of where the fundings and where the legislators and mental health and all of that, it's disheartening, because you're thinking, God, we're spending less percentages in school on mental health, but then here's a school shooting that happened at Freeman, 4 or 5 years ago, right? So it's just like, I guess that was frustrating to me, because those are the people we voted in to be the leaders, to draw out what can help in our little communities wherever we're at in Spokane, right? So that was the frustrating part to me, and that's only going to take time and time and time to work out those gaps within our legislation. So therefore I had to focus on what I could do now. It's so frustrating when you're a parent that has a missing kid and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm meeting all these parents with other missing kids. Like, I'm going to be that mom, but just like them. Now, blessed that my kid came back, but I'll never forget about their kids not coming back. And so, and so what I'm saying is, it drawed me to learning more about what was going on in the community and why kids were falling through these cracks. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll leave it at that.
And I think that organizations like the Zone Project and the Opportunity Northeast, just the fact that they have so much positivity and hope that they bring to this neighborhood, and breaking down the barriers to work with other people and organizations so we can all kind of work together, it's bound to be a success because of everybody's determination. I believe that.
I think, yeah, you guys hit the nail on the head. Stuff like the zone project has brought forth this even concept that we need to do more of that. You know, that it wasn't that long ago that neighborhoods could be written off, that community groups, that you know, a start your own kind of nonprofit could just be written off. You know, they're not important, they're not going to survive, they're not going to make it, they're not part of our political infrastructure, blah 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 blah. You know, and we've seen that. I remember building coalitions and people, you know, going to somebody who isn't even a part of our neighborhood anymore and trying to find out what was the deal with it when that person has no idea what we were working on. That has gotten better. You know, I guess that's what I can say, is that we have built institutions is a dirty word. I don't want to say it that way, but at least little I institutions around our organizations and our efforts and our teamwork, where it doesn't have to be an official designation, but the president of the city council knows that whoever is the chair of this neighborhood can speak for this neighborhood. It's not just that this person is a cult of personality kind of thing. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it has gotten better. It has. I feel like we have more clout and we have more. We have our S together better, if that makes sense. I don't want to cuss on your show, but we're able to like make it really clear to people that, yeah, we did work this out. We do have a united voice on this, and we're frank when we don't. That, you know, maybe it's more 60-40, that kind of thing. So I've seen those improvements, and a lot of that has to do with the two things that these guys described, for sure.
And may I just add one thing that so I represent the Logan neighborhood, but I also meet with the people that represent the other neighborhoods of District 1 once a month. And it's really cool just to hear what's going on in Bemis and to hear what's going on in different areas. And so, and it's also like a place for me to pick my elders' brains a little bit, because a lot of the people who are involved in the other neighborhoods are a little bit older. So it's a great place to learn about what other neighborhoods are doing and how we can work together. That's a bonus.
And one thing I'll just add there, I know that y'all mentioned the zone project. Folks have seen videos that mention the zone project in the Northeast Community Center. And I think that from what y'all have shared and from what I've heard over the last couple of years, like the zone project is this collective impact project in Northeast Spokane that's really trying to bring together a lot of organizations, like as a backbone organization, I try to bring folks together. Similarly with Gonzaga, I think our initiative, Opportunity Northeast, I think the strength of that is like helping bring folks together from the university and from the community, right? So like having these organizations and these places that are trying to get folks de-siloed, I think is a huge strength I've seen since I've been here, at least, that's been maybe growing over the last year or two. Hannah, you had a question. Would you mind asking it?
Sure, yeah. So I was just curious how the pandemic and the new health and safety guidelines have affected your most vulnerable communities and your at-risk kids receive services and get connected.
I'll start on this one. So I have a 5-year-old, and she just started kindergarten in COVID, which is super weird, right? And we also are really close with all of her classmates where she used to go to the Northeast Youth Center, and have seen a lot of different versions of, answers to this question, because it is very unique. To put on my ARC hat, isolation is deadly. It literally can kill people. And so when you start talking about, I mean, there are folks in nursing homes and in adult family homes and that can't leave, that can't go out, that can't do this a lot of times. And it is extremely difficult. Kids are amazing. My daughter at 5 knew how to use Teams better than most of my coworkers who had been using it several months when she started, like a week after she started. She's come in and been like, Dad, why are you on mute? Because I'm like not wanting to engage with the thing. Like kids, and depending on their situation, have a lot of opportunities and have a lot of internal, stuff to work off of. But my daughter's privileged, right? Like she's blessed with that. She has that, she didn't know what it's like to not know where your next meal is coming from. And that's not true of every kid. Luckily, the schools have tried and done a great job of making some things like food insecurity better. And so I think a lot of that is available. And I think a lot of kids are just sharing the stress that their parents have. and you definitely see that at like the center and what the kids go through there. But obviously, you guys have different additional points of view.
The Logan's CA rep, Barbara Ann, she lives at the O'Malley, and she hasn't been at a CA meeting, I don't think, since COVID shut down. And that was her thing. And I miss her. We miss her. I know that CA misses her. So I've reached out to her. I haven't heard back. And I'm not sure if Gonzaga has supports at the O'Malley at the moment. But yeah, it definitely is having an effect on that community, on us, because we miss her. I also have kids, and we were exposed to COVID right around Halloween, and my first grader was supposed to go back to school 2 weeks ago. So his teachers are no longer online. So he's not had a teacher at home for the last 2 weeks. He's totally amazing. He's got so much, he has drive to do stuff on the computer. But just having him go back to school today is really exciting. And I hope that the schools can stay open through all of this.
Now I know you're gonna tell me we only have like 2 minutes, so I gotta like hurry up, right? No? Okay, so I'm gonna say to your question, well, I'm gonna say this because I'm in a different position. Otherwise, and I'm so blessed to be in the position I am, seriously, because now I'm somebody that's providing for my community. When before I was just a mom working, going day to day, and really, I would have been the person you were giving the resources to. And so here I am, and we're providing projects in a bag, which was just my quick thinking of like, how do I take these kids that are out of our facility, learning DJing, learning breakdancing, learning music, rapping, singing, their instruments, art, fashion, cosmetology. How do I take all of that and now keep giving to these kids? We're at 60 kids at the time. And so now I made these kits, rather, 1 month it's canvas painting, fashion is making a costume, whatever it is, right? We put it in that kit, the parents request it, and that's what they get to go home and work on with a tutor or a mentor online if they so choose to. So that was my quick thinking of like, how do I switch things up from being inside, now sending it to them? So we deliver it to their doorsteps. They don't have to worry about, just all they got to worry about signing up. They need a tutor, or if they can do it on their own, they're fine. So that was my quick thinking. But the challenges, is I don't get to see the kids. I don't get to see, I get to talk to them on the phone, but that isolation is huge. And I have a special needs kid as well. I have an at-risk special needs, and then like a chill girl that's just pretty chill like me. Anyway, and my special needs kid though struggles online because there's like all of you guys on Zoom, and we're all special needs, and everybody's kind of like, all over the place. So that's kind of like a bit of a challenge. And now on November 30th, the school district wants them to all special needs kids to go back, which for us is almost, the special needs parents puts us kind of like, well, why are our kids being the testers? We go back to phase 1, but now you guys are wanting them to go into school. And that's, like confusing for us, because we don't want our kids to be the first ones to get COVID. No. How do I support those other families that are asking me, what am I going to do? Just because I'm all of a sudden an owner of a nonprofit, which means nothing, guys. I'm just like anybody else. And so yeah, go ahead. And then I get distracted and I forget because somebody's talking to me. But any point is so that's what I did. Now I'm in a different position. I can create these programs for these kids. We do robotics online. I buy the equipment and the tools, provide them, and ask interns and ask college students to like, what do you guys do for fun? So I can provide these kids activities at home so they don't feel so stressed out and frustrated and alone that nobody wants to hang out with them, or that the laws now are changed so where they can't go and hang out with their friends. So, I mean, that's what I'm doing on my end to try to develop more things for kids to feel, although online is overwhelming because they're doing it from 8 to 12. So, you know, I mean, it's a work in progress, this COVID thing, and it's just taking day by day. But like, we serve, like I said, over 300 homeless youth downtown with food and snack bags. And then we're going to be partnering with Gonzaga to do turkey dinners. And so like, that's just me creating different ways that I can come up with. So I'm always encouraging any community member, any college student, ideas, bring them to me. You know, I mean, collaboration right now is huge for the youth and even the parents. Let's not forget the parents, because it's so much where either they're getting more domestic violence because we're at home all the time, or one person gets COVID and now these ones don't. Let's say my kids don't. Where do I go? Where do I go? Can I afford a hotel? You know what I mean? So there's just, when things come on my plate, I just try to deal with it one day at a time. You know, that's all I can do. And I don't know if that helps your question, but that's what
Yeah, y'all are great. Amazing.
Can I tag?
Amazing.
Can I tag just a little tiny bit on that? Because Natalia said something really, really brilliant there. Everything she says is really brilliant, but this particular bit about like the walls breaking down and that some things, you know, collaboration is easier. Spokane is weirdly territorial with their volunteers and with their funders and that kind of thing. I shouldn't say that, maybe other towns are too, I don't know. I just know that in my life working professionally and as a volunteer with nonprofits, I've often been just shocked by like why we don't share resources better. That has gotten a lot better under COVID, I would say. There's so much less like worrying about territory and worrying about credit and worrying about that kind of stuff. I think COVID is going to be a real blessing and a curse for anyone that can think of it in a way that we can keep some of the good things and discard the bad things when it's over.
And Luke, just to hop on that, I think Northeast Spokane has kind of shined a light, like in terms of responding to COVID because of the relationships. And I know like colleagues in the health district have said, this is what we wish every neighborhood in Spokane was doing. So.
Y'all have touched on this a little bit throughout the time here. And I think like our students here today are folks from all across the region, the country, maybe, I think, some folks, and are leaders in different organizations at various levels. When you think about leadership or individuals, institutions, engaging with your community, what are characteristics, what are qualities you're looking for in those people? What do you want to work with? And what are qualities that are detrimental to the work that you want to do?
Me first, because I'll forget. I love that question. I really do. And I have to take myself there, not forget where I came from. That's a really important thing. Like why did I start what I'm doing right now? And I question myself. Oh, I'm gonna get a little emotional. I question myself, am I doing the right thing? Am I good enough to do this right now? Like, am I, you know, like just because my son came back didn't mean the problem stopped. Problems are still going on. And now I have the pressure of other parents coming to me, which I'm, you know what I mean? And so that's just a lot of pressure. And then you can't do anything bad because you're a leader. And so like, you don't want to be caught up on the news or YouTube, you know what I mean? So like, you got to be good. So like, it's just a great question. And honestly, what I look for people on my team is God, just to be real, you know, communicate and we say that so much. Let me say something better than that, you know, finding people that, because sometimes some of my staff, well, you know, they got their own little twitch about them, but what they do have is this passion that I can see about what their goal is and what they want to accomplish with this program that I'm allowing them to develop their own. You have a ukulele and you want to teach a class. We had only posted it for 24 hours and got 30 signups. So now, kid, this is a 19-year-old college student. Now, kid, make this your own. But when you do that, remember the kids are here to have fun. They're fun. Just talk to them. Just, maybe, we skip on ukulele and we're just talking about, football, whatever it is, but just make sure you're having a good time. Because if we all know that whatever you guys are doing now in life, and maybe when you're a teenager in your 20s or how old you guys are, it's like we've had jobs where we don't really care to be, or we don't like the people around us, and life is too short to be like that. And then sometimes, obviously, and we can't choose, and we have to make the 9 to 5 to pay the rent. But if you're able to shoot for whatever career you're trying to shoot for, and sometimes it comes in a blind side, like mine came in a blind, like, you know what I mean? Like, who would have thought I'm doing what I'm doing? Okay. But, you know what I mean? So hopefully that just like, look for a leader like you would look for yourself. You know what I mean? For within yourself, what does a leader look like to you? What is your purpose? And then you'll be able to spot those other people that maybe might have their twerks, but can really, really come up with some great ideas for themselves, and you're uplifting them because everybody's at a different level. And I really like to uplift other people because I was this one too, struggling. So I want to uplift these other ones to become what they want to become. And that's what I think is a good leader.
I can go. I would say something very similar, just in a different way. Especially, someone trying to come in and help and consult or join in on an effort. The two big things are humility and building relationships. Coming in, you wouldn't be there if you didn't have something to offer, but the folks aren't going to let you offer it if they don't see that you're there to listen to, and that you're there to really take in the situation and then add to what they're doing. I'm sure you guys already talk about white saviorism and that kind of fun stuff that you got to worry about. And this applies to that, but really it's so much broader than that. Whenever somebody says leadership quality, my answer is humility. It's 100% about making sure everyone above you and below you and beside you knows that you're a humble person that isn't always right, that you can come off confident, but you actually are listening, and that you actually are going to let other people have their say and their part. And what walks hand in hand in that is relationship building. And whether that looks like getting in and getting your hands dirty, or standing back long enough for them to do their thing so that you have a chance to build a relationship with them. I mean, you really have to read the situation. But to come in, the complaint and the criticism of stuff like Avista volunteers and interns and service learning is that it can be a little flighty, right? Like it can swoop in, do something, be gone, may or may not have an impact, may or may not have some work to do. On the flip side, when you build a relationship, it doesn't feel that way. And it actually leads to some good stuff too. I know there's at least one person who worked with us as a student at Eastern on the WashDOT project, and now she works for WashDOT and makes probably more than any of us. It's pretty great. She's awesome. She does a great job, and she was the best person for the job because she already knew the neighborhood. She already knew the things. So it's that, real world relationship thing that applies to anything. It's applicable anywhere.
I was just going to say, like, actively listening, just like they both said. I think that it's so important to really listen and not just think you know the answers. And I need to take that advice too sometimes, because I'm so strong-willed about my damn neighborhood. But I appreciate the zone project because they want it to be partially resident-led. So they want to make sure, because they know those residents are probably going to live here for a long time, that they're not going to just move along with the next opportunity, that they're actually vested into it. So I just think that giving value to lived experience is so rare. It was rare, and it's becoming more and more valued, and I really appreciate that.
Wow. Thanks y'all so much. I know we're about at time. We have about 4 minutes, I think. I wanted to give students another opportunity to ask a question. but I'm not seeing any more in the chat. I know, Kayla, you asked a good question, and I think it was similar enough to Evan's that I didn't ask it again. But if there's something you want to add there, let me know.
Well, can I actually kind of address the question since we just have a short time? And
Absolutely.
I had a thought about this because the question is, how have things in Northeast Spokane changed in recent years based on the results of the 2019 survey, progress or decline? And as you might, and sorry, Kayla, I stole your thunder. You should have been able to jump in and do that. Sorry. But it actually, again, blessing and a curse, right? My first reaction was, well, 2020 has been nothing but COVID, right? Like we haven't accomplished anything. Truth be told, we were really burnt out in 2019 and felt like the world was on our shoulders. And I think COVID has given us a reset chance. And so while, progress hasn't been much since, other than in the background, which is actually incredibly valuable, since the start of COVID and even before, I think we're going to walk out of this situation with new energy and new ideas and new collaborations and all those things that are going to be hugely valuable. We all just feel stuck, right? Like a low-income neighborhood is not ready to jump right into Zoom meetings every month for their neighborhood council. It took Hilliard 4 months, I think, before we actually met and did anything, partially because we just hoped it would go away, right? And we'd be able to get back to in person. But so reset is my answer. I think it's a chance for us to really just reset and focus on those positive things. And, a global pandemic will do that, make you remember your blessings. But yeah, it's definitely an opportunity.
That's funny you say that, Luke, because I see it as a reboot as well, and a place to check your priorities and what is it that we really want to see here. It has been really inspiring to see Gonzaga and the Zone Project and their response when I just wanted to pull the covers over my head. They were busting their tails to make sure that kids weren't hungry, families weren't hungry, kids had activities to do. So they also didn't just pull a blanket over their heads. So yeah, it's been very inspirational.
I swear we don't pay them to say that, so thanks, y'all. We have maybe a minute. For Luke, Natalia, and Lindsay, any last thoughts from y'all, / like, do you have questions for the students? We didn't do that last time, but.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think we would need the hours, right? Like, I don't know, you can't answer, I don't think I can ask a question that they could answer rapid fire.
Yeah.
It would be so awesome to hear everybody's story. I mean, that when I do a job interview, that's always my first question is like, tell me your journey. Tell me what's brought you here and what makes you in this, in this program, in this class, in this particular meeting. It would be amazing to hear that. And maybe that's an opportunity for future shows. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I would personally love to hear. We love to, Northeast Spokane is a relational place. People, you got to get to know each other, and we want to get to know each other. And that's something that is a big asset for us, for sure.
And can I just challenge anyone who's on this call today or even listening to go out and take a walk around a few blocks, pick up some garbage, and just maybe wave, and even if you have a mask on, smile at the people who are out. Just that little bit of connection can really be a movement.
Thank you. I can say from my perspective, what you all do is very inspirational, and it was great learning more about what you do in your communities and your community in general.
Thank you all so much. Yeah, I don't think there's a better way to end the show. So thank you all, Lindsay, Natalia, Luke, for joining us. Thank you to our students for engaging. And we'll sign off on our last episode of Community Chat for the day. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Luke, thank you so much, man. Natalia, thank you. Lindsay, thank you.
Love y'all. Take care. Happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving. Bye.
Happy Turkey Day.